NFL's receiving corps, but I think that they have potential to go up. And with Russell Wilson throwing, the perception's going to be a lot better because, one, they just haven't had the volume over the years. They still don't really throw a lot. But Wilson's just connecting on like 80% of his passes right now and at like 9-10 yards per attempt. So it's going to look better with that kind of throwing for sure.
Yeah, obviously. It's gotten to the point now where it's like 3rd and 8. Used to be like, oh, my gosh, and they're going to punt. And at this point, it's like, they have every chance in the world to actually pick this up and go for a long gain. But, a lot of that's due to the offensive line, both passing and receiving. And the offensive line, they promised us all year long, Carroll and Cable did all year long, that the offensive line would be better as the season went on. It seems to be this way, and they've changed some personnel, but why do you think they're better from week 1 to where they are now?
Well, obviously, I think getting Patrick Lewis in there instead of Drew Nowak is a big deal. I think Nowak has, some potential down the line as like a backup type guy. But he was just out of his element. He never really played. There's so many things that center has to do in terms of getting guys on the same page, communicating, snapping the football, which he wasn't very good at, and blocking, obviously, run and pass. And so I think getting Patrick Lewis in there, he's made a big jump from last year. He's really improved. So that's been really good. But I think a lot of the other guys have just kind of settled in. And a lot of offensive line stuff is continuity and getting some chemistry together. Communication's huge. It's very much like an interconnected thing. And so when they were talking about, like, just need to give them time, like, they weren't, like, necessarily blowing smoke up your ass. It really is true. It just takes a while to kind of get that all together. And the Seahawks have done that every year for the last 4 years in terms of they get better as the year goes on. Luckily, so far, knock on wood, they've been pretty healthy on the offensive line. So that's obviously been really good, too, to get them all, on the same page. And continuity is obviously huge. So, the other thing is they started throwing the ball quicker, and that's been big for, I think, one, obviously, you just don't have to protect all as long, but two, it's made them more confident. I think, it's funny because a lot of people don't really talk about the psychological factors involved in the sport because you can't measure them and all that, but I think a lot of this has to do with just confidence. Like, they're getting a lot more confident, too. And, when you're more confident, you can play more loose and quick and, just kind of, I think it's all interconnected. So, but yeah, they're definitely gelling at the right time. I wouldn't say they're still like a top level unit necessarily, but they're definitely, giving Wilson the time he needs, finally giving him a pocket. Obviously, their run game has been really strong the last couple of weeks, last 6 weeks or so. So, it's going in the right direction, and that's exactly what they said would happen. So, credit to them for that.
Yeah, they didn't lie to us, even though we thought for the longest time that's what they were doing. But yeah, they seem to be right on with that. Cleveland comes to Seattle on Sunday, having just beaten the 49ers, who aren't very good, to be honest. But Johnny Manziel did play well. Any fear that the Browns win this game, and what does Seattle need to do to beat the Browns?
I think they definitely shouldn't overlook the Browns, that's for sure. They're kind of riding high right now, getting some confidence. Johnny Manziel, I haven't watched the replay of the game yet, to really know what he did. But from what I've heard, it sounds like he made some really good plays and kind of did the backyard style of quarterbacking, which actually the Seahawks have had some issues with in the past. So that is a little bit of a concern, honestly, just because, when you get that kind of quarterback going, it can confound some of your schemes and you have to be very disciplined, keep him in the pocket. You have to be more disciplined with the rush. You can't necessarily expect him to just stay in the pocket. You're going to have to mush rush him a little bit potentially. That could slow things down. That could give them more time to throw. So, this is the same stuff you kind of run into with Colin Kaepernick in the past, who's obviously not good anymore, but at one time, was giving defenses trouble. And obviously, like Russell Wilson, once the quarterback breaks the pocket, everything kind of breaks down, and you have to really be disciplined and stick with your guy and all that. So that's going to be a challenge for the offense, I think. But at the end of the day, I still think the Seahawks are a much, much better team than the Browns. The Browns are 2-3 3-10 or something like that right now, and I don't necessarily think that's deceiving. So I think the Seahawks should win. I said the same thing about the Ravens last week. I think anything can happen in the NFL, and the Ravens have a lot of talent. I would say the exact same thing about the Browns. Anything could happen. The Browns have talent at some spots, but I think at the end of the day, the Seahawks are just a much, much better team. They're obviously playing at home, which is huge. I think the Seahawks should win pretty easily, pretty handily. But this does kind of have the feel of a trap game in the sense that everyone's kind of looking past them at this point.
Yeah, let's hope they don't. Hey, Danny, the Panthers took it to Atlanta yesterday to remain the only unbeaten team in the league at 13-0, and they've got 48 total touchdowns this year. What are the chances, do you think, that they'll go be the second team to ever go unbeaten?
Honestly, I think it's pretty strong right now. Just pulling out their schedule, I know they have Atlanta again at one point. I think they might play the Giants. Yeah, they play the Giants and the Bucs. So that's not exactly a murderer's row. The Giants have been really inconsistent. The Falcons, let's face it, they suck. And the Buccaneers have been really inconsistent. So, I honestly, it depends a lot on resting and what Ron Rivera decides to do with his starters because, they're pretty close to locking up what they need. Obviously, they already locked up a playoff spot, but I'm sure they want to go for that first seed. But, yeah, I think statistically speaking, there might be, not a great chance they end up winning all out, but I think just the way they're playing, it's hard to see them losing to any of those three teams. So, I could definitely see it. And I could see them wanting to do it, too, They've kind of been the underdog, chip on the shoulder type team all year, so I could see them really, not letting up the gas.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I wonder if maybe it'll hurt them in the long run just when it comes to the Super Bowl because there is so much pressure as the Patriots felt in 2007, I believe, to go undefeated. But,
right.
Hopefully the Seahawks will be the ones to beat them in the playoffs in Charlotte. So hopefully that's how it'll go. But Danny, thanks for being on. You've been on with us several times. You're always a great guest. Will you let people know where you can be found on the interwebs?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FieldGulls, GULLS. Obviously at the website, fieldgulls.com. I also do a number of weekly columns at SBNation.com. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Thanks for being on, and, have a great week, and hopefully the Seahawks will make the playoffs, and we'll be talking Super Bowl with you soon. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Danny.
So that's our show. I mean, we do have the final phrase that we always have to end the show, which I think is phenomenal. But that's Kevin's just 2 words. So your prediction on Sunday's game versus the Browns?
I think it's going to be a Seahawks win. I'm predicting it'll be, let's see, I'm going to go 31-10 Seahawks.
And I'm always conservative. I'm always worried that they will not win very big. So and it's worked. It's worked in the past. So I'm going to say the Seahawks win 17-10. Even though I hope it'll be much worse than that, but 17-10. I know that when Johnny Manziel was in college, and he threw some wild passes versus Alabama in a game they lost, even though they barely lost, and he was just kind of throwing it up, which is what he did last year a lot, especially in his first start. I think he's a better quarterback than he was then. I don't think he's a great quarterback by any stretch of the imagination, but my analogy at that point was if he did that against the Seahawks, they would probably the pass would be completed because they would just die laughing because he actually attempted the pass. Hopefully he'll get picked off a couple of times. I think it's more a matter of he's a slight guy, and hopefully Michael Bennett or Cliff Averill won't have him for lunch. So, which is possible. But yeah, I think the Seahawks should win. They should move to 9-5. Really, against the Rams the following week, they should move to 10-5, and by that time they should have clinched a playoff spot. That's our show. We do want to thank Danny Kelly again for being on with us. Danny's been on several times. He is the editor at Field Gulls. Next week, again, back on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, we will have John David Fraley on with us again. John's been on a couple of times. Been great. So that's our show, and I think we'll leave it at that, except for Kevin's final 2 words.
Go Hawks!
Russell has 3 receivers to his left. The tight end, Luke Wilson, to the right. Russell out of the shotgun. Takes the snap. Looks. Has all kinds of time. Now he throws to the middle of the end zone. It's caught for a touchdown! Seahawks! Tyler Lockett in the back of the end zone, wide open, and just great protection for Russell Wilson. Had all day to stand back there and wait for somebody to come open, and the rookie Tyler Lockett did from 8 yards out.